In this cramped corner office of the Hamilton County Courthouse,
Yep, it's 13 by 9.
sex offenders are photographed, fingerprinted, and most importantly, forced to register where they live.
What's the new address?
Hey guys,
But far too often,
has he been around recently?
as we discovered,
It's been almost a year now.
many don't live at the addresses they reported.
Yeah, he don't move his address for over a year.
The number of missing sex offenders,
This one, he's a predator, rape of a child.
Yes.
Don't know where he is.
No.
surprised even us.
As of 2018, we have issued about 205 felony warrants.
205 felony warrants in just 11 months for sex offender violations. That's 60% of all the felony warrants issued in Hamilton County.
That's stunning.
Yep.
An even bigger problem is a lack of funding. While state and federal laws require counties to register sex offenders,
Can I have a seat?
there's no direct money to support the units.
And we're talking the biggest fear of people are child sex offenders, rapists.
Yes.
And you're not getting a dime?
No.
The budget for the Hamilton County Sheriff's Sex Offender Unit is $341,000 a year. $71,000 covers the cost of sending out notifications to neighbors. The rest pays for the 3 deputies to register and track the offenders.
3 deputies.
Correct.
How do you do that?
We try our best to manage our time wisely.
It sounds exceedingly difficult to do what you do.
There are times where it's very frustrating and aggravating. All right, let's get you out of here. Gonna have a seat.
And that frustration grows when you compare us to other Ohio counties. While Hamilton County has 3 deputies to track 1,500 sex offenders, Franklin County in Columbus has 7 in its unit to track 1,800 offenders. That's more than double the staff to track just 300 more offenders. Montgomery County in Dayton has 4 staff members to track a little more than 1,000 offenders. That's 1 more deputy to track nearly 500 fewer offenders than Hamilton County.
And you do it well.
Thank you.
The fact is, they are drastically short on funding, so just 3 deputies scramble
It is a lot to do. It's a lot of.
to keep up,
Yeah, we go alone. So,
Because you don't have the manpower.
correct.
knowing the offenders can and do strike again.
All right, good luck, man.
You worry about all of them.
All of them.
Yes.
And it's about to get even worse. Beginning tomorrow, one of the 3 deputies in the Hamilton County Sheriff's Sex Offender Unit is being reassigned to the jail. It's part of a new round of budget cuts. So that leaves just 2 deputies to oversee more than 1,500 sex offenders. I'll keep digging for answers. I'm Duane Pohlman.
Did you see it?
Yes, I saw it. I sure did. I think it was spot on.
Ohio Governor Mike DeWine made it clear. He not only watched my Local 12 investigation, sex offenders on the loose, he intends to fix the problems. At the beginning of February, I aired a 2-part series exposing a stunning number of sex offenders, including rapists and child molesters who go missing each year in Hamilton County.
How many roughly don't do as they're told?
500? 1,000?
I thought your stories were powerful. They were also scary. Anybody who would see that on the 6 o'clock news or 11 o'clock would be very, very concerned.
Even more of a concern to Governor DeWine, the staffing shortage. With budget cuts, 2 deputies are now left to register and track 1,500 offenders. The governor says he intends to change that.
I've instructed my public safety team to see, can we find some money to give to them so that they can get another person in there, or they can at least pay for overtime.
Any idea how much money yet on what you can offer to help the sheriff?
No, and again, it's probably one-time money that we can get.
Kind of an emergency kind of
It's
deal?
an emergency.
Our investigation also focused on the huge number of warrants that are issued for missing sex offenders.
We have issued about 205 felony warrants.
That's 60% of all felony warrants issued in Hamilton County. While most were caught, there are many sex offenders who are still on the loose. Governor DeWine is addressing that issue too, with the state task force to make missing sex offenders and violent criminals a priority.
Probably the number one priority is going to be someone who has just committed a murder, someone who has just committed a rape, and they are loose and they've not been apprehended at all. That clearly has to be number one. But a sex offender, locating that sex offender who has moved and has failed to report certainly is a priority.
The governor's task force will meet over the next 4 months and come up with what DeWine calls concrete recommendations on how to better track down sex offenders and all violent criminals. The governor says the state money to help Hamilton County's sex offender unit will arrive quickly. I'll let you know when it gets here. I'm Duane Pohlman. Inside the Hamilton County Courthouse, Deputy Margot Kuderer is now working her new job at the security desk. Sheriff Jim Neal confirming Deputy Kuderer and her former partner in the sex offender unit, Deputy Adam Breeze, have been reassigned.
They're sworn peace officers and they're needed in the court of common pleas.
That may be, but the new assignments are a far cry from what these deputies did well for more than 15 years.
Go and have a seat for me. We try our best to manage our time wisely.
Just a few months ago, deputies Kuderer and Breeze registered and tracked more than 1,000 sex offenders. In January, Deputy Kuderer told me staff shortages were causing hundreds of sex offenders to go missing in Hamilton County each year.
So there could be, a total of 400, 500 offenders that are not in compliance.
Moved by what I uncovered,
I thought your stories were powerful. They were also scary.
Ohio Governor Mike DeWine delivered $40,000 to the sheriff to help track down the offenders. How'd you feel about that?
Oh, it was awesome.
Sheriff Neal says he'll use that state money to pay for overtime and a law enforcement sweep to track down missing sex offenders. While that's good, it doesn't explain why the sheriff moved his most experienced deputies from here to here. But let's talk about why you decided as a department to move these two who had been doing it for so long out of that unit.
Not necessarily out of the unit, we've broadened their assignments.
Deputies Kuderer and Breeze will no longer work in this office. They've been replaced by 2 civilians who will now register the offenders. Under Sheriff Neal's new plan, the 2 civilians will be joined by 6 deputies in the field who already serve court papers and warrants. Now they'll check sex offender addresses too. So you're taking sworn officers and removing desk duty and putting them in the field?
Yes, sir. Especially since every pay period there's fewer deputies in the field.
And that brings us to the real reason for this move, the dwindling number of deputies caused by Hamilton County's cost cutting.
Financially, this organization is strapped.
In the past year, the sheriff reports $5.5 million was cut from his budget. During that same time, the number of deputies dropped from 931 in March of 2018 to 870 in April this year. That's a loss of 61 deputies in just a year. At the same time, Sheriff Neal says he was being forced to fully staff the courts. You reassigned because there was pressure, and is pressure, from the courts to cover all courtrooms with at least 1 deputy, correct?
Correct.
While the sheriff admits he is being squeezed, he claims his new plan for the sex offenders unit is working. The number of checks on sex offenders in March was 89. In April, the first full month under the sheriff's new system, the number of checks shot up to 125.
As a reporter, you've been with the story from the beginning. You conducted a story on the sex offender program, and then all of a sudden you find out, oh my gosh, there's a wholesale change occurring here. But I needed to update you to make sure that you were totally informed that we're doing it even better now.
So far, the sheriff's unit restructuring has been good news for rounding up missing sex offenders. Still, it's clear budget cuts are triggering some tough decisions and tough times for the men and women of Hamilton County who wear the badge. I'm Duane Pohlman, Local 12 News.